Lots of things like flooding and that. Montreal is a little bit
Okay, we're going to get going here. Everyone can just take a seat. First of all, I want everyone to know that ELS has provided us a yummy lunch today, so we thank them for that. And I want everyone to, we're getting ready for the meeting here. Could you please turn off your cell phones? This morning we had a few interruptions with people's cell phones. The format of this meeting is going to be much like the other workshops you were at. And we're going to have short presentations by the people from ELS, and then questions and answers. And most of the time will be spent with question and answer. I'm going to let, before I introduce our gentleman of the hour here, I'm going to let Natalie speak.
Il va y avoir une courte introduction par les représentants de ELS. Ensuite, il va y avoir la période de questions. Dans le fond, pour la traduction, on va se limiter à la période de questions. Donc, si vous avez des questions à poser aux gens de ILS, juste les noter. Puis par la suite, si vous voulez même poser vos questions en français, il n'y a pas de problème, vous pouvez vous avancer. Puis je vais traduire la question. Mais toutes les réponses à toutes les questions vont être traduites par la suite.
Thank you. I'm going to start to my left and introduce people. Most of you should have seen or at least seen the video of David Bernstein. He is the attorney that is helping us through this process, helping the co-op. He's our attorney. This morning, the attorney from ELS, PJ Huff, was here. He had to get back to Chicago because he likes the snow. Actually, it's in Stanley. Okay, and off to my right here is Roger Maynard. Roger Maynard is the Executive Vice President of Investments for Equity Lifestyle. He's been with the company since 1997, and he's served in various roles, including Chief Operating Officer, Head of Asset Management, and his current role is Head of Acquisitions. He lives in Port Charlotte, Florida, and he works out of the Tampa Regional Office. Next to me is Michael Bailey, and he's Vice President of Investments and has been with ELS since 2015. Michael oversees the Cooperative Reconversion Program, which focuses on developing and implementing plans to recapitalize and renovate communities such as Palm Lake. Michael lives in Tampa, Florida, and he works out of the Tampa Regional Office. And I am now going to turn it over to them.
Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for having us. As Bonnie said, I've been at ELS 21 years, been in the industry 30 years. I just want to spend a little time just telling you about the company, some of our plans, and then Michael Bailey will come up and tell you about specifics to Palm Lake. But ELS is a real estate investment trust, public, traded on the New York Stock Exchange. About a $10 billion company that moves every day, but about that big. We have over 400 properties in the U.S. and Canada. Very low levered company, strong balance sheet, and you know we've bought quite a few co-ops. And what the shareholders would normally say is, well, what is a strong balance sheet? What does that mean to me as a shareholder? I think what that means, I'll just give you some examples, but we own about 120 plus properties in Florida. It's about 40% of ELS's portfolio. In 2005, when Wilma came through Fort Lauderdale, part of this area, we had a community called Coral Cay, about the same size as Palm Lake. About 350 homes were lost in that hurricane. Today, that property is 100% occupied. We came in and put all new homes in, rebuilt the 2 clubhouses, took care of all the debris that happened from the hurricane, and did that rapidly because we have available cash to do that. In the last Hurricane Irma, this summer, we had 2 properties in the Florida Keys. One of them basically got completely wiped out. By December of '07, we had the property rebuilt and back online for business. And there's still properties, MH and RV in the Keys, that still haven't come back online. So when we talk about having a big balance sheet and able to do things, that's one thing it should mean to you, because I think you guys know you've got vacant sites. I don't know if those all came from hurricane related or just over time, but it's hard to do that, and it takes a lot of capital to do that. So that's one thing that we have that we bring to the table, is the ability to do it. And as I think you guys know, Mike's going to talk more in detail, but in our contract to you guys, we said that we would spend a minimum of $3 million on CapEx. I think it's in the first 2 years.
I'm not sure.
Can't remember what it is, but it's quick. It's as quick as we can deploy it. A lot of that on infrastructure, but a lot of that on upgrades to the clubhouses, upgrades to the amenities. Because one, we want the shareholders to stay, or we want you to be able to sell your house to somebody else. And also, we're going to bring in 200 plus homes in there and fill those sites up and get new residents, and they're also paying rent. And so that's our plan. We are, very proud of our communities, very proud of the lifestyle that we bring to the properties. And with that, I'm going to let Michael come up here and talk about specifics to Palm Lakes and what we plan on doing. Okay?
Well, thank you all for having us. We've had a chance to meet a number of you so far, and really kind of hear the story of where people are from and how they got here, and we're always interested to learn more about the people. But just to tell you a little bit about how we got here, and we're here to answer your questions today, so I'll just talk for a minute. But Roger and I spent some time going around the state meeting with shareholder boards at co-ops throughout the state of Florida for the last 5 or 6 years, and we kept hearing the same things from residents, and those things that we were hearing were that it's difficult to run a property, a 900 site community. It's difficult to fix the infrastructure. It's difficult to keep the roads in good shape, and to update the clubhouses and to raise money to do those types of things. It's a lot of work, so somebody's got to be willing to do that, and it's hard to find board members to do that stuff. What we heard was a lot of people wanted to retire. They wanted someone to take care of the common areas and all the maintenance, and they didn't really want to have to worry about that kind of stuff. But with the co-op structure, a lot of these communities, they age over time, and they're running into problems, and these co-op boards wanted to see how we could help. And so we realized that there was an opportunity. That's what we do, is we manage communities, we invest in communities, and there was an opportunity for us to, and we look at it as a partnership, to come in and partner with the community and put money back into the community, really to raise improve the quality of life and improve the lifestyle for all the people that lived here. And so that's how we ended up here. We approached the board, and we think that there's a good opportunity for you all to not only improve the property, but also put some money in your pockets. And so that's why we're here, and that's what we'd like to talk about today. So, and I think Roger mentioned, what we've said, and we'll say this over and over again, is we agreed to put $3 million into the property on top of what we're paying. And that's just a minimum. I mean, we'll go and we'll look at, are there water problems? We've heard people say there are water problems. Do the water lines need to be replaced? Do the roofs on the buildings need to be replaced? Do the roads need to be replaced? And we'll do whatever it takes, and and we'll do those things. And again, we've agreed to escrow the money to do that. And I think that's really important when you go to sell your homes. When somebody's coming in to buy your home, that you can tell them, you've got clean water, you've got new streets, you've got new clubhouses, you've got new pickleball courts or shuffleball courts, whatever those things are. Maybe you never sell your home, but maybe you do. And it should help improve, the value of those homes too. But anyway, we don't really want to just sit up here and talk about us. We'd like to answer any questions that you guys have. And we're an open book, so ask whatever you have, and we'll do our best to answer. Thanks.
Okay, just a minute. I'm going to explain how we're going to do the questions here. I'm going to want people to come up to the microphone to ask the questions. I want everyone to know we are videotaping this session. I want to make you all stars. No. There are a lot of people here and people that are far away that can't get to these sessions. So I've made a commitment to get these sessions videotaped so that everyone can see them. And then it's also available for you if you want to go back and look at it again. So when you come up, I want you to give your name and your lot number, and then ask the question, one question. Everybody gets to ask their one question before anybody asks a second question. I would prefer if people who asked questions this morning would wait until new people get to ask questions. Really do not want anyone to come and voice their opinions and try to sway people one way or the other. We're trying to keep it to questions because none of us want to be here all day when the weather's so beautiful outside. So if you would just, whoever wants to ask a question would just come up. And and if you want to ask in French, that's fine. Natalie will translate the question. If it's in English, after the question and the answer, Natalie will translate it back for you. Okay? Sure.
Dans le fond, la procédure est simple. Vous avez environ 3 minutes pour poser votre question. On demande simplement aux gens de ne pas utiliser ça comme forum pour donner leur opinion personnelle sur qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire, si on vote pas, puis ce qu'on en pense. C'est vraiment un forum pour poser des questions et obtenir des réponses. On demande aux gens de poser une seule question et de se remettre au bout de la file. S'ils ont une deuxième question, on va pouvoir la poser après que tout le monde va avoir eu l'opportunité. Les gens qui auraient posé des questions ce matin sont demandés d'attendre que les gens nouveaux puissent poser leurs questions avant de se représenter à nouveau. Merci.
Okay, I'm ready for questions. Come on up, Pat. You got to speak really close to the microphone, so pull it down.
Okay.
They set it up for tall people.
Okay, thank you. I'm Pat Deck. I have lived in this park for 40 years, and I have never been any place that I've enjoyed like this because we're family. And that's my question. Are we going to continue to be able to have our activities, to have our closeness, or will this all be taken away?
Yes, ma'am. We try to enhance the activities, but whatever you have, if you have a social group or a social club or however you handle your activities, they'll be the same. What we normally do at the start of the year is the manager would come and say, what are you guys doing? So what we normally do is just contribute funds to help you enhance those things. You bet. Thank you.
Ce que Pat mentionne, c'est que ça fait 40 ans qu'elle est ici dans la communauté et ce qui fait qu'elle aime être ici, c'est qu'on est une grande famille. Et sa question première, c'est au niveau des activités sociales. Est-ce qu'on va pouvoir continuer à socialiser comme on faisait avant? La réponse est simple. C'est que ce que ALS fait habituellement, c'est qu'ils rentrent dans la première année, nous demandent qu'est-ce qu'on a déjà en place, et leur but c'est d'améliorer la communauté. Donc généralement, ils vont fournir des fonds pour aider à continuer les activités comme on les faisait et ou en planifier des nouvelles.
Before we take the next question, I just want to point something out. There are no bad questions. The only bad question is the one that isn't asked, right? So thank you for coming up and breaking the ice. Having been in front of this group for the last several weeks, this is probably my 6th time. This is the most quiet, it's not a bad thing, that I've experienced. I know the lunch was great. I know, everybody's listening intently, but I want everyone to ask questions. I stood here 2 weeks ago and I said you were going to take a shot at these guys, right? And they're here. So ask the questions, get the answers, and let's be sure no one leaves here saying, I wish I'd asked that, or I didn't hear, a point discussed that I would have liked to have discussed. And I would love to see everybody in here have a question. We'll do it diplomatically, of course, and we'll make sure that the question is answered. But it would be a shame if they left here today and we didn't get everything out there, particularly on the video that's going to be replayed for others to see that perhaps couldn't make it today. So I hope that you will come on up, and your turn to do so, please. Thank you in advance for doing it. Okay, Natalie will translate that.
I am Helen Johnston.
Excuse me, ma'am, 1 second. She's going to translate that. Thank you.
You're all right.
Dans le fond, ce qui a été mentionné, c'est qu'il n'y a pas de questions stupides. Toutes les questions sont importantes. Et une mauvaise question, ça serait une question à laquelle on n'a pas eu de réponse. Donc, on demande aux gens de s'avancer, de poser toutes les questions auxquelles ils peuvent penser. Et on mentionne aussi que la session aujourd'hui, elle est enregistrée. Donc, si on veut aider les gens qui sont au loin, le film va être affiché sur le site web. Si on veut aider les gens qui ne sont pas ici, on s'avance et on pose les questions aux gens concernés.
I'm Helen Johnston, and I don't know if you'll even know the answer to this, but do you have an idea how much money we're going to get when we pay the lawyers, the mortgage, and everything else? Do you have a bottom line or an idea? Because a lot of people think they're going to get $115,000.
Yeah. That's what we think.
Yeah, that's after we pay the lawyers and the mortgage.
Well, these guys pay the lawyers. We vote yes, and the buyer is responsible for all of the costs of the transaction, which includes the lawyers. It'll include each individual person will have a closing. It'll include that closing. If you wanted or need to change the names on your shares, that will be done prior to the closing. They'll pay for that. We're going to cost them a lot.
Yeah, that's true. However,
and right now, our best guess is 115,000. Things move a little bit because we have, when we started, we had 622 shareholders. Right now, we have 600, and we have some foreclosures in process. So, things move a little bit, but it shouldn't be less. It should be more.
Oh, because I understand we have to pay off our mortgage with our money before we get it.
Yeah.
And you still think we'll get around 150? Okay,
Well,
thank you.
and the buyer will be paying the prepayment penalty. Remember, we discussed the mortgage. Were you at last week's meeting?
Yeah.
Perhaps you
Yeah,
okay.
$1 million.
Yeah, there's about $1 million prepayment penalty, and that will be paid by the buyer. The buyer will pay the transaction costs. So what was negotiated in addition to the $3 million that you heard Mr. Maynard, Mr. Bailey speak of, which is escrowed at closing for improvements, will be these other, quote, transaction costs, all of which the buyer will pay. And that includes your individual closing costs. I had a woman come up to me after the morning session, similar type question, but privately asked about her situation and her share and what it would cost her. If you go into the clubhouse today, she said, and say, I want to change my share, whatever it may be, you'll be told, she told me, it'll cost you $350. So my answer to her was, don't do it today. Wait and see if the vote goes through, and then call me, because that becomes part of the closing costs that get reimbursed to you at closing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, save your money, do it after the vote. Of course, it would have to go through, but that would be the way to do it.
La question, c'était au niveau de l'argent qui va être reçu. Est-ce qu'on pense que ça va être 115 000 $? La réponse est oui. Il y avait 622 actionnaires au départ. On est rendu à 600 actionnaires qui vont se splitter, se séparer la tarte. Il y a encore des procédures légales contre certains actionnaires. Donc, le montant de 115 000 ne pourrait qu'augmenter. Ce qu'on dit, c'est que l'acheteur va payer tous les frais et les pénalités qui entourent notre prêt hypothécaire, même les frais de transaction personnelle de chacun. Donc, si vous avez des changements à faire sur vos titles, vos titres, au niveau des impôts, ne pas les faire maintenant, ce qu'on dit, attendez, parce que si la transaction passe, ce sera les acheteurs qui vont payer tous les frais, incluant les frais personnels de chacun.
Hi, my name's Juan Catone. We just bought lot 394. It's been less than a year. Now, we came into here knowing that the fee was a lower fee, okay? And we love our place, but with the fee going up, I understand we're gonna get the 115,000, and that'll last us over so many years. But we're some of the younger people who bought here for this reason. Now, when that fee goes up, we're not gonna be able to afford the fee. So we're thinking if we have to sell our house, what's the possibility of it selling quickly so we could get another property? Or would you be interested in saying, we'll buy your property?
So the question is, you would like to potentially move after
Correct.
if we potentially purchase the property?
Correct.
And you're asking if we would help you sell the property, or?
Yes, yeah, basically, yes.
So I would say a couple things that I think are important to think about. First of all, we're investing $3+ million in the property, which should help you. I don't know that it will, but it should help improve the value of the home and the marketability of the home. The other thing is we have a national sales staff, a national sales team that we can help you sell your home.
Okay.
We have over 1 million people in our database. We have websites. We do a lot of stuff and spend a lot of money at a corporate level that really helps with kind of a national sales marketing program.
Okay, all right. But you will have real estate agencies that we could go to through you people, is that what you're saying?
Well, we have salespeople in our staff, or you can use anybody you want. So you can use any realtor you want. We don't restrict that. We just offer it as a service, to our residents.
All right, very good.
The other thing is, part of the contract is, if you sell your home, the things that were in the contract that we have distributed to you, like the rent caps, they go with the home. So your home is going to be more attractive because they can only possibly raise the rent 3.5% a year. Not, somebody that comes in and buys a new home for 4 years, if they raise it that much, that is the top. They don't have to. And you've got 10 years worth of that rent cap. If you decide that you need to sell your home, that is going to be more attractive to somebody than to come in here buying a new home with no rent caps on it. Okay?
I understand. Thank you.
Now we will let, just a minute, I'm going to let.
Le monsieur mentionne que lui a acheté ici, ça fait à peu près 1 an. Il a acheté ici parce que les frais étaient bas. Il se considère parmi les plus jeunes dans le parc. La question était s'ils veulent vendre leur propriété, comment est-ce qu'ils vont procéder. Ce qu'on répond, c'est qu'il va y avoir 3 millions et plus d'investis dans le parc, donc ça devrait faciliter la vente des propriétés. Aussi, ELS a une équipe nationale de vente et ils ont 1 million et plus de personnes dans une base de données de gens qui pourraient possiblement être intéressés à acheter soit les maisons neuves qui vont être installées ou les maisons plus âgées. Bonnie rajoute qu'il y a une partie du contrat qui est signé au moment de la vente, qui donne le moratoire sur les hausses, sur les augmentations de loyer. Donc, votre propriété est intéressante parce que ce moratoire-là, des augmentations qui est cap à 3,5% pendant 4 ans et 4% par la suite, c'est transférable à l'acheteur versus quelqu'un qui va rentrer, va acheter une propriété neuve qui n'aura pas cette augmentation-là qui est maximisée.
I don't speak French because my English is not enough good, okay? You're going to translate for me? Okay. Avant, on parle beaucoup. Je me suis pas fait une idée encore, ok? Si je vends ou je vends pas, ok? Je sais, c'est pas la place, d'accord? Mais je me suis pas fait une idée. Je dois le spécifier. On parle beaucoup de vente, et les messieurs ici nous expliquent la vente. Si on vend, on va avoir ci, si on vend, on va avoir ça. Ce que j'aimerais que le parc nous explique, si on ne vend pas, qu'est-ce qui va arriver? Parce que ce serait un peu utopique de penser que, avec tous les travaux qu'il y a à faire, avec la dette que nous avons, que nous allions rester à $300 par mois, 400, 500, 600, maybe. Ben, le 300, il va être loin. Et ça, j'aimerais bien que quelqu'un du parc, la présidente ou anybody else, puisse nous l'expliquer. Merci.
He says that he's undecided right now, as if he wants to sell or he wants to keep the property, and this is not the place to talk about that. He says there's much talk about selling. You are all up here talking about selling. What he's asking is what the scenario if we don't sell. Can anyone on the board answer that question? Inevitably, the fees will go up. What's our comparable if we try to salvage the park ourselves?
Boy, I've never seen you guys pass that fast. I wish I had a magic for sure answer. We know the fees will go up. You know, we certainly could look at the $100,000 engineer study to tell you exactly what the fees will go up. But I would not be surprised at maybe even $100 a month special assessment to people. That would not surprise me because we need work on the sewers, we need work on the roads. We have deferred them until this point. We don't know how extensive that is because that would be a $100,000 study by engineers, and we have chosen not to do that given that the park was up for sale. And again, I have no basis other than just my guesstimate, but I think you're easily looking at $500 a month in less than 5 years. Go ahead, Gary. Gary's also on the board. He could give you his insight. But you gotta come up to a mic.
Can I translate that?
Oh, yeah, let Natalie translate that first.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
Au départ, il y a une étude qui avait été proposée, c'est 100 000 $ pour avoir une étude d'ingénieur pour déterminer les coûts possibles d'essayer de sauver le parc nous-mêmes. Ce que Bonnie présume, c'est qu'il y aurait un minimum de 100 $ par mois qui serait une cotisation spéciale et qu'on serait à un minimum de 500 $ par mois dans les 5 prochaines années.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Tell them who you are.
I'm Gary Jones. I'm in lot 1242. I just got elected to the board on the 11th, right? We're just recoup a little bit of what we did on the candidate night. We talked about what it would cost to fund the reserves. You know, the last reserve study we did was in 2013. We normally adjust, get those reserve studies updated every 5 years. So this year it's due for an update. We're going to vote first, though. But that reserve study showed us that we should be putting away, 2013, an extra $33 a month on our maintenance fees. Now, we have been previously told that because we don't have elevators, that we don't need to fund the reserves. Well, now we know for a fact of life that we need to fund the reserves because this man so politely put this morning that our community is tired. It would not surprise me when we get the reserve study updated if it comes out with 5 years of inflation that we need to put away $50 a month to fund the reserves. It would not surprise me at all. The budget we have is already being strained that we passed this year. We should be paying about $340 a month now for maintenance. I think I could adjust that. I mean, I could prove that to anyone in a rational statement. So now we're up to $390. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. I did an analysis on this buyout, and I assumed in my analysis that we would start at $350 a month maintenance fees, and it would go up 6% for the next 10 years. I don't think that's way out of line. Right?
Bon, ça c'est Gary Jones. Gary Jones a été élu sur le board il y a quelques semaines. Il parle d'une étude de réserve pour la réserve qu'on devrait conserver de 2013. Et donc, cette étude-là est refaite aux 5 ans. Donc, on serait dû cette année pour refaire une nouvelle étude. Comme les gens ici ont mentionné ce matin, poliment, la communauté, elle est fatiguée. Et ce que Gary a fait comme étude personnelle, il dit qu'il ne serait pas surpris qu'il y aurait une augmentation de 50 $ par mois minimum. On devrait déjà aujourd'hui être à 340 $ plus le 50 $ par mois additionnel. Donc un minimum de 390 $ par mois avec une augmentation annuelle de 6 %. Ce serait son analyse personnelle à lui de où on devrait se situer dans nos frais actuellement.
My turn. You're up. Thank you. I'm at lot 1225, and I just want to reiterate what I went over this morning. I do have an additional question in that regards. And starting with the 675 element and building the through charges through, we came up, I think, to $760 a month. My question to you this afternoon is, the sewer charges are not incorporated in that through charge application. Are you aware of the fact that that is part of the 675, the way the proposal is written? Or do we tack that on and then we got it up to 780 a month?
Well, this is the first I've heard of it. Gary mentioned it to me earlier, but what I would say is the original proposal, the way it was written, was that we wanted everything to stay the same except for that we would mow lawns and we would pay the first portion of the taxes. That was the idea of the way the proposal was written. We can certainly sit down and look at that and better understand your concerns.
Right. Well, the only justification I'm using is the February 5th publication, and that states cable, sewer, and lawn. So I just want to make sure it's clear. If it's not, it's going to add to it, and that 675 is now up to 780.
So we'll go back and look at that, but if we say we're paying for sewer, then we're paying for sewer.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted that clarified because I didn't address it this morning when I went through the rest of the items.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be, I want to answer your question. It's very hard for us up here to get into the nitty-gritty without.
Oh, I totally understand that. I just want to bring it to your attention. So it's not something that's hanging out there. It's something that we're all aware of.
Yeah, so we would, our proposal says we'll pay for the sewer, so we'll pay for the sewer.
Correct. Thank you.
You got it.
Dans le fond, ce que Ed rapportait, c'est une question qui a été posée ce matin, parce que lui a fait une étude personnelle. I'm going to go back to the answer from this morning. You're paying for the sewer. Okay. Lui a fait une évaluation personnelle ce matin, qu'on paierait 670 plus 20 $ pour l'eau, plus 30 $ pour les vidanges. Et il demandait si c'est ELS qui paye pour les égouts. La réponse c'est oui. Dans l'entente qui est proposée, ils vont payer pour le câble, les égouts et l'entretien du terrain.
Let me just clarify it for the people that weren't there this morning. 675, what Ed had asked about, what would be the total cost with a pass-through? 675, and then he made an assumption on water of $20 a month, which is low, and then 35 taxes, which would not, if the taxes come through, if there is a pass-through, that wouldn't be until 2020. And then 30 for garbage. Right now, your trash is included in your tax statement, but you are paying that now. And those were the assumptions that he made and where he came up with that amount of money. So he was trying to look at what was the most that you would have to pay. Again, and the water will all depend on you as an individual and what you use.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Clarify your...
Yeah, I want to clarify that.
You got the mic, because we're videoing. Sorry, I want to hear you.
Thanks to David over there, on this application of the taxes, that would not be applicable on the initial rate that we would be charged. So you have to deduct that off of there, the $35 that are computed for the real estate tax, which would not be effective for the first year that we pay. And that would bring the total back down to $724.52. I just want to make sure we understand that.
And one other thing, I think it's important to note that, you know, the 300 that is paid today, it's not 300, it's 300 plus water, plus trash, plus real estate taxes. And so it's the same expenses on top of the 675 as there are on the 300.
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dans le fond, le point de Ed de ce matin, et ce qu'il disait, c'est qu'il rajoutait par-dessus les frais de 675 un 35 $ additionnel pour les taxes, mais qu'il faudrait le déduire maintenant qu'on a clarifié la situation. Donc, on est rendu à, what's your final number, 720?
I gotta get this right.
And 74 cents.
724.52.
Ça, c'est 724,52, qui est la nouvelle estimée à Ed pour quand on prend le 675, on rajoute les frais des vidanges qu'on paye déjà, mais on va continuer à payer des frais pour les vidanges. Puis on rajoute la consommation d'eau qui est estimée à 20 $, mais ça, c'est individuel à chacun. Ce qui a été rajouté ici par ILS, c'est sûr, c'est que le montant de base de notre comparable n'est pas de 300 $, mais bien de 300 $ plus l'entretien du terrain, plus l'eau qu'on paye déjà, plus nos taxes qu'on paye déjà, dans lesquelles on paye déjà pour les vidanges.
So, and just, I think that complicates things a lot. It makes it hard to follow. The simple way I think of it is, you know, there's an exchange, and your total dollars out would go up about $375 a month, and you would receive, by the cooperative's estimate, $115,000. And if you think it's worth going up, and we would invest $3 to $5 million in the property, somewhere in that range, if that exchange makes sense, and it seems to make a lot of sense to me, then, you know, this is something that might be interesting to you.
Dans le fond, pour simplifier tout ça, ce qu'il faudrait dire, c'est au lieu de regarder juste des chiffres comme on vient de le faire, ça peut être déjà un peu mélangeant. Ce qu'on dit ici, c'est un échange entre une hausse de frais et le 115 000 $ qui va vous être offert. Par surcroît, on rajoute entre 3 et 5 millions d'améliorations locatives. Donc, tout ça mis ensemble, est-ce que vous croyez que c'est avantageux pour vous?
Serge Laurie, 855. I'm wondering, since you have other properties elsewhere in Florida, and if this offer goes through, the houses you put on these lots, approximately how much do they sell and or how much do you rent them?
The sales price, probably the average sales price in here is probably going to be $70,000 to $80,000.
It's for a single?
It'd be a multi-section home. What you guys would call a double wide.
Yeah.
We try not to use that term. We say multi-section, but
You're saying they would sell from 70 to 80,000?
yes. Yes.
Okay, and would you rent them?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I'd have to talk to marketing and stuff and see. But if we did, it would be on an annual basis. And it would be under the same restrictions that background check, credit check.
Okay, elsewhere, do you rent the houses?
Yes, we do.
So-
Not in all communities.
Okay.
Some communities do. We do.
Roughly how much?
How much do we rent the home for?
Yes.
Probably $1,100, $1,200 a month, probably on average.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I was just going to say that before Natalie talks, most or a number of the co-ops that I'm aware of rent now. We're one of the few co-ops that does not rent. So that's a common practice in other co-ops. So that's what makes it a little trickier here.
La question de Serge était au moment où est-ce que ALS achète quand ils vont installer des maisons neuves, quelle est la valeur des maisons neuves? On parle de 70 à 80 000 $ pour une maison double, comme nous on l'appellerait. Est-ce qu'il y aurait de la location de ces propriétés-là? Ça serait possible. On parle d'une location sur une base annuelle seulement et les vérifications d'usage, comme le passé judiciaire, etc., seraient quand même tenues en vigueur dans le cas d'une location. On parlerait d'une location entre 1 100 et 1 200 $ par mois environ.
Hi, Julie Lavoie, 1345. I'd like to know if there's going to be like a transition period in case if ELS buy the property here for people who may consider make a switch, a change, buy a new house here. So basically, like let's say we get paid like the 115 and we have a, let's say a 1970 house and some people decide to leave or sell at discount because they get in the bottleneck of the beginning of the transition. And let's say I want to switch for something else. First of all, I'm not signing two lease, and do I have a transition period? And how it might take a while before there's a new house from ELS populate the park. So also, like, is ELS will include those closing costs in that transition period? Let's say we want to switch. As it is right now, we cannot just sell the trailers. It's the share and the title of the trailer is one entity, one piece, undividable. So right now I cannot just say like, hey, let's switch, you know, because I know you want to leave and I don't want my trailer anymore. So can you please like clarify about for people who might like to know?
I think if I understand, which I think what we're saying, after we close, you could sell your house to anybody you want to. The share is gone, right? We own the property then when that happens. So I don't know what a transition period would be because it would happen as soon as we close. You could sell your house. You have the title to your house.
I don't want to pay to like. I mean,
She wants to buy a new home from you
Without rent.
without paying rent on the old home while she's trying to sell it.
She wants to take the money, you can borrow the money, get a new home. Yeah, I guess that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it so, Judy?
Let's say someone want to switch for another trailer or a new home and all this. You have already like a rental agreement. I mean, there's gonna be like a transition system to facilitate like.
Right, but I'm trying to figure out, so would they sell their home and move to a new home or we could do a trade-in? There's a lot of probably things we could do. I don't know all those things right now, just thinking about it, but we could do a trade. There's a lot of things we could do. I'm not the sales guy, but I ran operations for a long time. There's something we can work out on that. So let me think about that a little bit, what you say, because but I'm sure there's we want people to buy new homes, so that would be a great thing, and we want them to stay in the community, so.
But do you have to, you can buy a new home, you're not no longer responsible for the old one.
That's what I'm saying, we'd have to figure out some kind of trade or something, so you're not responsible for that other house.
And one more thing, I will say that in other cooperatives we've purchased, we've experienced a number of shareholders that have traded up and said, I'd like to buy a nicer home now, and they bought a new home and sold their own old home. But I think what Roger mentioned is we would be open to some kind of plan to do a trade-in or something like that.
La question de Julie était, est-ce qu'il pourrait y avoir une période de transition au moment où est-ce que la vente est faite vers ILS, si les gens, par exemple, sont propriétaires d'une maison des années 70 et ils partent ou ils vendent à rabais, est-ce s'ils voulaient acheter une maison neuve, est-ce qu'il pourrait y avoir une entente avec ILS pour avoir une période de transition pour ne pas payer deux loyers, dans le fond, ne pas être pris avec deux loyers différents? Donc, la réponse, c'est que ELS veut vendre des maisons neuves et ils veulent aussi que les gens restent. Or, donc, tout est négociable, on a juste à s'asseoir avec eux et ils sont ouverts à la négociation à ce moment-là.
J'aimerais savoir si après la vente, on aura toujours l'avantage de louer nos maisons. Ça, c'est ma première question. Vas-y.
He's asking if after the sale they always have the opportunity of renting his home, and what would be the rules governing that rental, subleasing his own home.
So, and I think what we would say is that we'll continue whatever your rules are today. You would be able to do whatever your rules say you can do today.
Okay.
3 to 6 months.
Pas nécessaire de traduire, c'est correct. Ma deuxième question, c'est, il y a beaucoup de rumeurs. Il y a énormément de rumeurs. Everybody says something, and we come crazy. It's not for you, it's for her. So now, if the water ou les égouts se brisent, est-ce que, vu les rumeurs sont que les banques ne veulent pas prêter à la coop, ok? C'est ça la rumeur, que la banque ne prêtera pas à la coop. Est-ce que la coop survivrait à ça?
So basically what he's saying is there's a lot of rumors going on, and the question is if should there be a major sewage problem right now. He says the rumors are that no banks want to loan to the co-op, and what kind of trouble, and could we survive a major sewage break at this point in time?
Let me tell you about the mortgage. We cannot borrow more money. That is not an option. We already have a huge mortgage out there, $4 million plus, with $1 million payoff penalty, prepayment penalty. So we can't. That's not an option. Borrowing money is not an option. Do we have enough money for sewage problems? Yes and no. I mean, it depends on what that sewer problem would be. Right now, we don't foresee a problem. Today, I don't foresee a problem. Something could happen tomorrow, a month from now. We don't know. We haven't spent the money to get all of these, the engineering kind of studies done that would tell us that. And we didn't want to spend that extra money right now until we knew which direction we were going. So I don't have a really good answer for you, but I have the only answer that I know. We could have enough money. I mean, ideally, if we can do a section by section and repair the sewer, we have enough money. But there's no way to know once we get in there to fix this section if that's going to cause that section and that section to break. We just don't know that. So if I had a crystal ball, I could tell you, but I don't have one.
Dans le fond, la réalité, c'est qu'on a une hypothèque de 4 millions présentement avec 1 million de pénalité si jamais on la payait d'avance. La vérité, c'est pas une rumeur, c'est que non, on ne pourrait pas réemprunter par-dessus l'emprunt qu'on a déjà. Emprunter, ce n'est pas une option. Pour faire une vraie évaluation, on revient encore à l'étude d'ingénieur qui coûtait 100 000 $ et ça a été décidé par la coopérative de ne pas dépenser cet argent-là pour le moment, étant donné qu'on a une offre d'achat sur la terre. Est-ce qu'elle pense que si on réparait section par section les égouts à partir d'aujourd'hui, qu'on pourrait survivre à ça, qu'on pourrait le payer? La réponse, c'est oui, sauf qu'on ne sait pas l'effet domino que ça peut avoir quand on répare une section, quel effet ça va avoir sur la section suivante. C'est la meilleure réponse qu'elle peut donner en ce moment.
I'm Phyllis Speech, 529. I was at the other meeting, and it was said that you needed to sign the lease for 1 year in order to get any money. My question is that correct? Did I understand that? No. Okay.
You would need to sign the lease for a year.
Right.
But we would have closed, you would have sold your share, you would have the money before you ever signed the lease.
What are... Okay, then I misunderstood.
I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, what are the requirements for your leases? When you do the leases with the people, do you do it annually or do you do it longer, or what do you usually do? What is the requirements?
So 2 things to answer your question. It's an annual lease that automatically renews if, it can automatically renew. And then we have rent caps in place so that, part of the deal, and I mentioned this earlier too, and I want to make this very clear to everybody, most of our communities do not have rent caps in place. And that doesn't mean that we raise the rent 6% or 8% a year. A lot of times we don't raise the rent. Sometimes we, just depending on the economy, sometimes we raise it 1%, sometimes we raise them 3%. We are capping the rents here for 10 years, and I believe it's 3.5% for the first 4 years, and then 6% after that. I'm sorry, 4% after that, for 6 years. Yeah. Excuse me. And then the other terms of the lease, the business terms of the lease, and we mentioned this earlier, are the same that are in the lease that you all use for your renters today.
I know. I picked up a copy at the office. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
La question qui est posée, c'est par rapport au bail, donc le bail qui sera signé. Madame pensait qu'elle avait l'obligation de signer un bail pour recevoir son paiement. La réponse, c'est que on vend notre quote-part. Donc, notre quote-part est vendue, on reçoit un chèque pour la quote-part qu'on a vendue à ELS. Par la suite, nous est proposé le bail. Donc, la signature du bail se fait après la réception de l'argent. Ce qu'on parle ici aussi, c'est qu'à l'intérieur du bail, il y a toujours le moratoire sur le maximum d'augmentation annuelle sur une base de 10 ans. Donc, on parle de 3,5% d'augmentation qui est le maximum pour les 4 premières années et de 4% par la suite. Ce qu'on dit ici, c'est que la majorité des propriétés que ELS est propriétaire n'ont pas ce genre de moratoire sur le maximum d'augmentation et qu'ils n'augmentent pas nécessairement à toutes les années et que parfois ils augmentent de 1%, 2%. Donc, on ne serait pas nécessairement augmenté au maximum qui leur est permis selon l'entente.
Hello.
Pull it down. There, thanks. We want to hear you.
Hello, my name is Rose Gallo, and I own Lot 802. My ears opened up when you mentioned bringing the mobile homes in or the trailers in and leasing them for a year. We have a rule here that we can only rent for 6 months. My question is, can we vote that we can rent for a year, and how would that work out? Would you be would you approve that we could rent for a year if the people voted that we could?
Said yes.
If you vote.
Well,
We don't get a vote.
If you're renting.
right now, part of our rules and regulations that you agreed to abide by says that you can rent from 3 to 6 months. So, we actually did, at the time we did those rules and regulations, we had workshops. There were a number of people who were very against year rental. So it would have to be something that was negotiated. Right now, that's why we left it at 3 to 6 months. But now they're renting their homes that they purchased, which is different. We haven't been a rental community up to this point.
If we wanted to upgrade and rent our home to somebody and buy one of your newer homes, will they be the new homes coming in, or will you have used homes and new homes coming in?
They'll be all new homes, because it's
Okay.
almost impossible to get used homes and rent.
Okay, so you wouldn't be bringing in used homes and fixing them
Correct.
up?
Right.
Because I know a mobile home park that does that. But if we rent from you on an annual basis, we would have to rent our place on an annual basis. And this is where my question comes in.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You got that one? No, Natalie's got to have it. Can you explain that?
La question qui est posée, c'est par exemple, Madame demande s'il serait ouvert à ce que nous aussi, on puisse louer annuellement nos propriétés. La question que la dame pose, c'est si elle voulait louer de ILS une maison neuve, est-ce qu'elle pourrait ensuite louer la sienne annuellement? La réponse, c'est oui, qu'il serait ouvert à cette possibilité-là. Pour l'instant, on serait au départ régi par les règlements qui nous régissent présentement, qui est minimum 3 mois, maximum 6 mois, mais ils sont ouverts à la discussion. L'autre question qui est posée, est-ce qu'ils vont entrer des maisons plus anciennes? La réponse est non. Il y a seulement des maisons neuves qui vont être installées dans le parc.
Hi. My English is not good, sorry.
What is
Funny, I want to speak with you. I have a question very, very important for all the people. I speak French too. Si il arrive un problème majeur demain matin des égouts, là, je veux qu'on ait les vraies réponses, que tout le monde entende les vraies réponses, parce que tout le monde a peur, puis tout le monde dit n'importe quoi. Donc, si demain matin ou dans 6 mois, on décide de ne pas vendre le parc, puis il y a un bris majeur, qu'est-ce qui arrive? Notre peur à tous, c'est de perdre nos maisons. Deuxième hypothèse, s'il arrive un ouragan, it's finished. Je veux savoir qu'est-ce qui se passe là si le monde décide de ne pas vendre, puis qu'on a un problème majeur ici. Où est-ce qu'on va prendre l'argent? Personne n'a les moyens de payer plus. Ça, c'est une certitude. Moi, je vais avoir la réponse de Bonnie pour qu'elle explique à tout le monde la vérité.
Je pense qu'on vient juste de répondre à ta première question au niveau des égouts. The question has just been answered concerning the sewage. Her question again is, should there be a major sewage problem tomorrow morning? Are we able to fix that? Can we survive that? And assuming that we do not sell and there is a hurricane, are we going to survive that as well?
I don't think we will survive a hurricane. The reason being, I mean, if we have a hurricane like we did this year, yeah, we'll survive because nothing happened. If we have a hurricane where there's damage or a number of damage of homes, if you look at the last hurricane, let's say the 2004 to 6 hurricanes, we lost 150 plus homes. If we lose 150 people paying maintenance fees, we can't survive. Now, we have insurance for the co-op buildings, you know, all of that. But that does not help us if we don't have the income. We need the income we get on a monthly basis to pay the bills on a monthly basis.
La certitude que je vais avoir dans tout ça, c'est que s'il y a un problème majeur à propos des égouts, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? On risque de tout perdre. Puis ça, je veux que le monde soit conscient. Si c'est une peur qu'on se fait, tant mieux. Mais je pense que personne n'a les moyens de s'embarquer dans une histoire comme ça. Si on a une sécurité avec ALS de pouvoir régler le problème, je pense que c'est un avantage.
On a répondu à la question tantôt au niveau des égouts. Ce que Bonnie disait, c'est que oui, on est capable de réparer les égouts, sauf que si on en répare une partie, on ne sait pas l'effet domino que ça va avoir sur les autres sections.
Parce qu'il y a déjà des problèmes ici. S'il y a un problème majeur que le monde a décidé au vote de ne pas vendre, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? On ne veut pas perdre nos maisons, parce qu'il n'y a plus personne qui va pas rester ici. Personne ne va pouvoir payer non plus. Moi, je veux avoir la vraie réponse de ça.
Là, ça a été répondu tantôt, c'est que ça prenait l'étude de l'ingénieur qui était de 100 000 $, puis on a choisi de ne pas faire l'étude de 100 000 $ pour l'instant, parce qu'on a une offre d'achat sur la table. Donc, sans cette étude-là, Bonnie ne peut pas répondre au-delà de ce qu'elle a déjà répondu, qu'elle dit oui, on est capable de réparer nos égouts aujourd'hui, sauf que si on le fait par section, on ne sait pas quel effet, si on répare une section, quel effet ça va avoir sur la section suivante. C'est vraiment ça, la seule réponse qu'elle peut donner. I'm repeating the answer that you've given already because the question is being repeated, asked again.
That's fine.
Because for the people, it's not easy because I'm afraid.
Not easy for me either.
I think we're getting into a personal opinion now.
I know, but
That's where you're
it's
going.
only a question for all the people because the people say, oh, I can't repair, but you have a damage major.
Yeah, it's a matter of risk, okay?
Yeah.
If you want to roll the dice, go to Las Vegas.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the big risk because I lost all the house. It's not funny.
No, I know. I just think I need to have the other people ask the questions, their questions.
It's not a critic, but it's just.
No, I understand. I understand.
Thank you very much.
There was another part to her question about the hurricanes, and then there was your answer. La deuxième partie de la question concernait s'il y avait un ouragan demain matin, qu'est-ce qui pourrait arriver? La réponse de Bonnie, si on se fie à 2004 à 2006, les ouragans qui ont eu lieu à ce moment-là, où on a perdu au-delà de 150 maisons, la réponse est que oui, on a des assurances pour les infrastructures de la coopérative, mais si on perd 150 personnes qui arrêtent de payer des frais mensuels, ça, la coop ne peut pas survivre à ça.
I said that the other day, too.
You did. You said that the other day, too. Go for it.
Lynn Tinker, Lot 521. My brain is really fuzzy, so I've got a couple of things here. First of all, I'd like to know, what is your average rent in other communities? Just an average.
For Florida, I'm going to estimate about $650, somewhere in there, $675, somewhere in there. It's probably about the average.
That's your average?
That's probably the
Okay.
average.
Let me just say that you have to remember that they're in many other markets. So when you go north or much more rural, it's quite different.
I understand that. I'm fuzzy on this rental thing. Our rent will be at, you said $675 per month, not including the real estate tax, correct? Okay. Number one, what is the co-op paying for taxes on their property right now? How much?
I mean, I could get that information, or the office, Keith could get that information, but we pay tax on all of the lots that are empty, and then we pay tax on the clubhouses and all of that. Off the top of my head, I cannot tell you what it is, but certainly.
Can we find that out for
Sure.
tomorrow? Are we still having a meeting tomorrow?
Yes, we're having a meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
I don't know how that help you though, because it's not just the, when they're looking at defining how much the real estate tax might be, it's not just the co-op's tax, it's all of the taxes on all the taxes that people pay for all of the lots, and then it'll be divided by
taxes.
But when you look at the base rate, that whole thing about the base rate, when you look at the base rate, that base rate is going to depend on what the co-op pays, and what every individual shareholder pays, not including the discount for homestead. So all of that goes into what the base rate is. Then it's any increase above that base rate, and then it would be divided by the 900 lots.
Okay, I do understand that, but I'm still not too clear as far as, I don't know how to explain this.
Okay, well, I can easily find out for you, well, I'm not so easily today because the office is gonna close. But we can find out for you and I can give you the amount,
Okay,
that's no
well,
problem.
I'd like to, try to get, because after you purchase it, they'll be reassessing the property, and I'm sure it's gonna go way up. The tax rate or the tax assessment will go way up. So we'll be responsible for paying your that tax increase. Is that correct?
There's been a lot of talk about taxes and different characterizations about them. And I think you have to put them in context, right? And you just said, well, they're going to go way up. There's a possibility of a tax increase anytime a property sells in Florida.
Correct.
And you have to look at the timing of it and whether or not it can be forecasted as to what it will be. Neither of those can be ascertained for sure. It can be absolutely, it's not a science, okay? It's not a science. Neither of them can be forecasted for sure. But I will tell you that we have built in protections here. And there is no reason to say, well, they're going to go way up and we will pay them. Without more specificity to that, and I want to put a finer point on what you're saying, because several people have already spoken with authorities, state and local. Several people have already put some thought into what those amounts could be, or again, no science to this because we can't say for sure what will happen in a given county in a given year. But remember this transaction will close, if it is to close, if it's approved and goes forward, it would close in the calendar year 2018, and in the latter part of the calendar year, right? We're already in the beginning, and it certainly isn't going to close until the latter part of the year. There would be no tax pass on in 2018, right?
Right. You already know that 2020, you figure, is when it'll be.
Well, I don't know, yeah, and I repeat it because you say way up and we're responsible for that suggests it happens right away. And so I want people to understand, who maybe haven't heard this before, that the earliest any reassessment would happen out here would be in 2019, and it may not happen even then. Now, in Florida, if it is reassessed in any given calendar year, it is the following year that the tax is payable. On top of that, you will not be paying the taxes you are paying now on your home.
I don't pay taxes, so.
Well, you're alone on that. A lot of people do. And in previous meetings, we've had people say they pay over $1,000. So everyone's in a different situation. So again, your statement was, and we are responsible for that. Yes. We means everyone, right?
That's right.
Not the co-op, the shareholders. And there are shareholders who do pay taxes now that will see it go down. And that's what you have to understand. You're looking at it from your perspective, and I'm trying to clarify for everybody, when you say we, don't. Say me. Because there are people in different situations here. There are people here today spending over $1,000 a year in taxes. Anyone in this room?
Yeah.
Okay, they won't be anymore. Well, may I conclude? And so, if I can just make it clear, many people will see lower expenses on the tax side than they have right now, immediately, and it will not increase above what they pay now. For those like yourself who say, you know, And we've had Ed say $35 a month. We had Mark and Matt say it's going to be upwards of closer to $50 a month. I'm not going to argue or dispute with either of them. I don't know. I don't know if it's 35, 50, or 0, but I do know this, that in the at least 2 years since Forest Lake Estates closed, it's at a higher price than this, in a county much more tax-starved than this, and in an area where you would have thought, at a price point that appraised lower than this, that the taxes would have increased by now, and it closed in the middle of 2016 in June. So we're in our 3rd year. Didn't increase in 16, didn't increase in 17, and we're in 2018, and guess what? No tax increase yet there, right? And I closed that transaction having represented those residents since 1999, and I had the same questions asked, gave the same answers. And the reality is, I said you'll probably have a tax increase the following year for the reason you're pointing out for some of you. Because some people, again, are going to see it actually go down lower. Why? Because it's spread out now. There's a base here, and only the increase, which is what you're asking for, so you can try to calculate. I get that. But only the amount over the base is what would be taxable to you as an individual shareholder, and it must be spread over 900 lots. So it's divided by whatever that increase assessment calculates out to. It's divided among the 900 plus lots here on a pro rata basis is what it's called. And so therefore, it is built-in tax protection. But I want you to know in Forest Lakes, we're in our 3rd year, there hasn't been an increase. So it may or may not happen here for 2 or 3 years, if it happens. And for many people, they will have made a decision at that point on whether they're going to stay here, not stay here. You will have been able to earn money on your investment, but more importantly, you will not have been paying, I know you don't pay them, but for those that do, will not be paying any taxes in those 2 or 3 years. I see Ed shaking his head. I know he agrees with that. I want to make one other comment before I go on taxes, and that's this. You won't have a problem translating this. I've seen you. You're great. You know, the one other thing to remember is this calendar year. In this calendar year right now, for those that do pay taxes, if the sale does not go through, you're going to end up paying 12 months of taxes. If the sale does go through, you're going to pay far less. Why is that? We've covered it in workshops. Anybody remember? Want to phone a friend? You phone a friend over here?
3/4 of the year.
3/4 of the year. If it closes September 1st, for those that do pay taxes, you're already saving on a proration basis, right? Because you only pay for the period of time that you were the owner. So you're going to save 4 months right out of the box, folks, in taxes this year. You know, if you're not reassessed, as we envision, you won't pay it next year either. So as a result, you're saving money right up front. So it's very important. I know, and I'm sensitive to the tax issue because there's a lot of scare tactics going out there on taxes, and no one's focusing on what they're getting. They're only focusing on what they're fearing. And so let us get you that information. Let us get you that information. Bonnie said she will. And then you can, like Ed or like Mark or like Matt, you can try to run your own figures and see how that impacts you. Okay?
Wait a minute. Can we? We'll never catch up.
Please. Okay. So
Mention Forest Lakes.
I'm speaking English, so. Okay, la question, yes, I will mention Forest Lakes. Thank you. La question était par rapport au loyer moyen ailleurs. Donc, si on compare avec le loyer moyen ailleurs en Floride, le loyer moyen ailleurs en Floride est de 650 à 675 $ par mois. Ce que Bonnie a fait remarquer, c'est qu'il ne faut pas oublier que les gens sont dans des marchés différents que le nôtre. Maintenant, l'augmentation de taxes. La deuxième question, c'était par rapport à l'augmentation de taxes. L'augmentation de taxes va être basée sur la base de 2017. 2017, ça comprend ce que la coopérative paye en taxes présentement. ce qu'on paye pour les taxes pour les lots vides, ce qu'on paye pour les clubhouses présentement, et aussi ce que chaque individu paye de taxes présentement. Donc, on prend toutes ces taxes-là que tout le monde paye ensemble, ça devient notre montant de base pour 2017, qui devient notre comparable pour les années suivantes. Et nous, on sera responsable de l'augmentation entre la base de 2017 et l'augmentation éventuelle 2018-2019. Il n'y aura pas de passation d'augmentation de taxes fort probablement avant 2020. Et cette passation d'augmentation de taxes entre le montant de base établi de 2017 sera divisée en 900 lots. Donc, la compagnie qui achète est responsable des taxes des lots vacants et nous, on devient responsable de la quote-part, de l'augmentation seulement pour un 900e de l'augmentation quand on part de la base de 2017. Est-ce que tout le monde a compris? C'est bon, juste... OK. Maintenant, on parle que les gens ont peur des taxes. Il y a des rumeurs, on parle de taxes, on parle seulement de nos peurs, de nos craintes. Les taxes, c'est pas quelque chose qui est prévisible, c'est pas une science. Alors donc, on peut pas répondre exactement quel va être le montant. On parle ici, par contre, que Forest Lakes, qui a été vendu en juin 2016, pour ceux qui ont été dans d'autres rencontres, ça nous donne un comparable. Et l'avocat ici mentionne que lui avait annoncé qu'il y aurait fort probablement des augmentations de taxes, comme ils disent à tout le monde. Et ils sont maintenant à 3 ans plus tard, et il y a eu 0 augmentation de taxes dans leur cas. Donc, si on utilise ça comme comparable, ça peut peut-être nous aider. Aussi, ce qu'on mentionne, c'est si on se concentre, non pas sur nos peurs, mais si on se concentre sur l'année calendrier de cette année, on paierait 12 mois de taxes si on ne vend pas. Et si jamais c'était vendu, on paierait seulement au prorata. Donc, on paierait le 3/4 de l'année. Donc, vous sauveriez cette année déjà 4 mois de taxes.
Lynn, can we let the people behind you ask it? Well, but
It's
my one question.
It's a question for them. If it is reassessed at a substantial amount, the maximum increase, will that stay at the percentage it is, or will we get a large added to our monthly rent? Did I say that right?
Yeah, what I would say is the taxes are separate from the 4% cap.
That's what I
Or
wanted.
3.5% cap.
That's what I wanted to know. So it would be a large amount added to our.
But let me also say this, we're very sensitive to what is a market rent that can be paid, a total all-in cost. So if there was, and we don't expect there to be, but a huge increase to your taxes, we would factor that in when we're assessing, we're doing rent increases.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dans le fond, ce qu'on répond ici, c'est qu'on est très sensible aux valeurs du marché. La question était s'il y avait passation de taxes, est-ce que le maximum d'augmentation de 3,5%, est-ce qu'on pourrait avoir une cotisation spéciale par-dessus ça? La réponse, c'est non, il n'y a pas de passation de frais autres que les taxes telles qu'entendues. Et ce qu'on dit ici, c'est qu'on est très sensible aux valeurs locatives du marché. Donc, ils n'auront pas tendance à dépasser les valeurs locatives du marché actuel.
Hello, Marion Whittemore, Lot 497. Did I not hear you say that the leases that we would be fined are based on a yearly basis, which has us once a year renewing that lease with DLS? What are the rules and regulations? Is there a possibility to get a copy of this lease so that we know exactly what it is that requires of us and you to complete this lease? Fact that it is a yearly lease in my mind, automatically says, uh-oh, at the end of 12 months, ELS can say, I'm not going to renew your lease, whatever reason you may have, but you have the right to do that, not to offer me another yearly lease.
So a couple of questions in there, and let me do my best to answer them. First of all, with the rules and regulations, we would keep the same rules and regulations that you all have in this community,
I can see you about that. I don't have any rules and regulations.
Yeah, so I think you can get a copy. The lease is a lease that you all use. Since we're a new company coming in, we have to, we have to make some changes to it. But all the business points in the lease, the things that you care about, would be the same. It's the same lease that you all give to your renters today.
Would you believe I've lived here 18 years? I do not have a lease.
Well, just the non-shareholders. Just the non-shareholders have it.
Okay.
And then the thought about us making you move out at the end of your lease term, I don't even know what the laws are on that, but really, I can't imagine any scenario where we would want our customers to leave the community.
Oh, good, we can still have those wild Saturday parties.
That's right.
But also,
I'm being facetious.
I think David can answer, but under 723, it's automatically renewable unless you, or you do something, you do something really bad. I mean, it's automatically renewed. That's 723 is the law that governs manufactured home communities in the state of Florida. There's statute on that if anybody wants to go look, but it tells you what your rights are, and one of your rights are we can't just tell you to leave because we want you to leave. There has to be a reason. You didn't pay the rent. You didn't, you killed somebody. I don't know, whatever it would be, but it would be.
You can pick up the rules and regulations and a copy of that blank lease in the office.
Thank you very much.
I think your question about the lease is a really important one because, and I want to emphasize this is actually a protection when it's an annual lease. And under this law called the Florida Mobile Home Act, the legislature in 1984 made it a requirement on park owners so they couldn't terminate someone, that there would only be termination of a tenancy if there was one of a handful of reasons. So those reasons include non-payment of rent. Well, if you didn't pay your maintenance fee right now, what would happen?
You're out.
You're out. No change there. All right. Violation of rules and regulations, that can give rise to a termination. All right. So I know you have your wild parties on Saturday night. So far, so good. You haven't been evicted yet. I would say your grandfather, or in your case, maybe grandmother, but you're in. You keep having those parties, no problem. But violation of a rule can be a reason. If it's violated more than once, there's a requirement in the law that you have to get a notice of the violation and a right to cure the violation. Okay? So it's really important that we negotiate it for the exact same rules you have right now, so that you're not going to be surprised by some new rule coming in here. I had a person this morning ask about pets, and we've had other people ask about certain things. The way you live now will be the way you're entitled to live going forward with the same rules. Now, I had another person say, our rules aren't being enforced the way they need to be enforced. We'd like to see more enforcement. And he used an example of a dog running without a leash. And so there would be, in that case of an existing rule that is violated, a notice would go to that person, and they have 7 days under the law to correct it. And if they don't correct it, and there's a second violation within 12 months, the law says they can be removed, they can be evicted. So let's summarize. You don't pay your fees, your tenancy can be terminated. You violate your rules twice because you received a notice and you continue to violate it, you can be terminated. The third way is conviction of a felony. So if you're convicted of a felony, you could be removed automatically. So make sure it's a misdemeanor if you can, not a felony. But those are the reasons. don't get hung up on that. The leases renew automatically. You're basically here with a life estate, and you're allowed to reside here as long as you comply with those requirements. You don't convict a felony, commit a felony, and you pay your money that's due every month, and you, of course, comply with the rules. They're your rules. But other than that, it was meant to be protection so that you wouldn't have rent increases more than once a year. And the law was very, very careful to make that point, that park owners can't increase rents more than once a year. Of course, on top of that, we've negotiated rent caps so that you've got the sanctity of knowing. On the rent caps, I learned something this morning that I want to repeat. And I think it was stated earlier, but I'll emphasize. I said it in the workshops, I'll say it again. That's the maximum increase. Doesn't have to necessarily be that much. At Forest Lake Estates, I recall negotiating with their attorneys, and one of them was here this morning. He flew back out this afternoon, but I was negotiating with him on rent caps, and we settled on 4% in that park. And we wanted it for 10 years. We got 10 years there as well. And I think in the first year, though it was 4%, I'm not sure that you actually went up 4% in the first year. You went up 3%. So it actually came in lower at Forest Lakes than the rent cap before. You still want the cap, but it doesn't mean, as I said before, that you can't forecast 4, 4, 4. It may not be, or 3.5, 4, 4. It may come in lower. It just can't be higher. That's the important thing.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
And by the way, you're all invited over Saturday night.
Saturday night.
That's a real good one. La dame posait des questions au niveau d'un bail sur une base annuelle et c'est quelque chose qui lui faisait peur à quelque part. On parle que les mêmes règlements qui sont applicables présentement vont être applicables dans le futur. Ici, on a mentionné qu'on ne peut pas imaginer un scénario. Madame disait un bail d'1 an, ça veut dire qu'au bout d'1 an, si vous voulez, vous pouvez me demander de partir. Mais dans le fond, nous, on a déjà une entente basée sur 20 ans. Et ce qu'on mentionne ici, en tant qu'investisseur, c'est qu'ils ne peuvent pas imaginer un scénario où on voudrait qu'un des locataires parte. On mentionne ici aussi qu'il y a la loi 723 de la Floride qui régit les maisons mobiles et l'allocation des maisons mobiles et que d'avoir un bail annuel, en effet, c'est une protection, puis vous êtes protégé par la loi de la Floride. Et la seule façon qu'on pourrait vous évincer, ce serait pour un non-paiement de votre loyer, pour une violation des règlements. Et c'est inclus aussi, c'est prévu dans la loi de recevoir un avis de non-respect d'un règlement et d'avoir l'opportunité de le corriger. Donc la loi nous donne 7 jours pour corriger ce qu'on a quand on a enfreint un règlement. Et il ne faudrait pas avoir une deuxième violation dans les 12 mois qui suivent. Ou il faudrait être responsable d'un crime majeur. Autre que ça, il n'y a pas de façon que le locataire peut vous évincer et ils n'ont pas non plus de raison de vouloir vous évincer. Aussi, ce qu'on mentionne, l'avocat mentionne ici que le moratoire d'augmentation est un maximum. Donc ici, on parle de 3,5% pendant les 4 premières années et d'un 4% maximum les années subséquentes. On parle de l'exemple de Forest Lakes qui a été vendu en 2016, je crois, et que la première année, eux avaient un moratoire de 4% d'augmentation maximale et que la première année, ils ont augmenté seulement de 3%. Donc, il ne faudrait pas faire des calculs en se basant sur l'augmentation maximale année après année après année. Ça ne reflète pas la réalité.
Bonjour, mon nom est Céline Buteau pour le lot 660. Moi, j'aimerais savoir si vous avez un plan d'action pour les maisons abandonnées, c'est-à-dire les maisons qui ne semblent pas habitées ou avoir de propriétaires et qui sont en délabrement. J'aimerais savoir si vous pensez les rénover ou les détruire puis construire de nouvelles maisons à ces endroits-là.
Yes. What she would like to know is what your action plan is on abandoned homes and dilapidated homes.
Are you planning on removing those, and are you able to do that on a short-term basis?
On the abandoned homes, yes, we can remove those quickly. On the dilapidated homes, I don't know if that's somebody owns it, then that would be, to me, enforcing the rules. So.
Est-ce que c'est des maisons que quelqu'un est propriétaire? Donc, si les maisons ne sont pas en bon état, ça serait juste au niveau de la réglementation, ça serait de...
Moi, je ne pense pas qu'il y ait de leur propriétaire présentement. J'ai jamais vu personne là depuis les 2 dernières années. Là.
Okay. Her understanding is that the homes are not occupied and they don't seem to be owned by anyone who cares for them.
So those would be gone. We would take those out.
Les maisons seraient détruites.
But I will tell you, on average, probably the reason they're not out is it's probably $6,000 to $10,000 per house to take them out. It's a cost. That's probably why.
I would say that the homes that you're seeing probably that we have not removed are homes that are in process. One of the biggest problems we have is when people die and they have heirs, but they don't want anything to do with us. So we spend a lot of attorney fees and months trying to enforce the maintenance fees and take them to court for all of that. And then eventually we will get the ability to do something with those homes. But if people die and they have no heirs, and we have people that, PIs and whatever, that find that out, we can petition the court then. We have more problems when they have heirs that don't want to respond to us.
Can I just finish it shortly, then you can just close this. I think what Bonnie was saying, it's also resources, because that's a difference in somebody like us. We have in-house attorneys, we do that, we can stay on it, we have the resources to do that. So I think that's really what the issue is.
Dans le fond, la réponse, c'est que ça coûte probablement pourquoi on retrouve des maisons dilapidées et abandonnées encore au niveau de la coopérative. C'est que les coûts pour démolir ou détruire une maison vont aller entre 6 et 10 000 $ par maison. Ce que Bonnie mentionne, c'est que le plus gros problème qu'on a, c'est au niveau d'un décès. Si quelqu'un décède et n'a pas de succession, c'est plus facile. Il y a des procédures qu'on peut entamer pour pouvoir éliminer. On devient propriétaire de la maison, on peut l'éliminer. Le plus gros problème, c'est quand la succession est désintéressée. Donc, la succession ne s'intéresse pas, puis nous, c'est des frais d'avocat pour réussir à avoir les titres de cette maison-là. Donc, ça peut prendre plusieurs années avant que ce processus-là soit entamé. Puis par la suite, on a encore nos frais de 6 à 10 000 $ pour détruire la propriété. La différence avec ILS, c'est qu'eux ont les ressources maison, ont les ressources à l'interne, ils ont des avocats à temps plein qui pourraient être sur ces dossiers-là et faire activer les dossiers plus rapidement, avoir des meilleurs résultats plus rapidement.
Merci beaucoup.
Don't be nervous. I don't fight much.
Okay, Barbara Dozer, lot 460, and Bonnie and gentlemen from the LS. There's a lot of shareholders that just don't want to say it because you said, do you want to sell? I do. But there's a lot of shareholders of us who think this is a wonderful deal because our park was a beautiful park when I came here in 2001. Every streets were shiny and everything, and now we need a lot of help. And we just don't have the money to do it, so we're going to get new owners, and our park gets help, and I don't mind having the money in the bank either. I'll be very honest. That's okay. I have one question. Okay. How long will it take to say yes? And there's a lot of snowbirds who would love to say yes, yes before they leave.
Okay, let me tell you what I think the time frame is right now. Not that this couldn't change a little bit. We are really hoping to have the proxy votes out, and I think we're going to be mailing them so that we're sure that everyone gets it. And that would be like after the 10th of March. We should be getting it after the 10th of March. We really want to have the tax meetings that we're having on the March 2nd. We think people need to have heard the tax implications before they vote. Okay, so the 10th of March, we expect to, after that, you'd have your proxy. The proxies then would be out. We encourage everyone to vote by proxy. The meeting where the votes would be tallied would be probably April 12th or the 19th, somewhere in there. This is an official shareholder meeting. We need by law the ability to have 2 notices. We also have to, we will be contracting with a CPA firm to count the votes so that it's not our hands. It will be all done. Every proxy will be vetted to make sure the right people's names are on it and the right people have signed. And then that's part of what takes so long. And then we will have the CPA firm oversee all of this, so it's done totally legally and everything's in somebody else's hands. So then that's when we would know. Okay, now, then we get to that point, then we have to start working with these gentlemen to go forward to the closings. The closings mean that every one of you gets the opportunity to change the name of the shares if you want that done differently once you find out about taxes. And then we have to do a closing with each person individually. That's why we're saying we expect to have the final closings and everything done by September.
Okay.
That's kind of what we're looking at. There's so much more involved in each step of the way that it seems simple, but it's pretty complex.
Okay, thank you very much. And gentlemen, thank you for that beautiful lunch.
Finalement, la question à Barbara disait par rapport à savoir quand est-ce qu'on va pouvoir voter. Ce qu'elle mentionne, c'est qu'il y a des snowbirds qui aimeraient peut-être avoir l'opportunité de voter rapidement. Ce qu'on espère, Bonnie dit, elle espère que les procurations vont être envoyées et ou reçues quelque temps après le 10 mars. C'est nécessaire que les gens rencontrent les comptables. La rencontre du comptable se fait le 2 mars. Il va y avoir 2 rencontres le 2 mars. Bonnie encourage l'utilisation de la procuration pour que votre vote soit rentré le plus rapidement possible. Le décompte des votes devrait se faire à une rencontre officielle des shareholders qui serait le 12 ou le 19 avril. C'est nécessaire par la loi qu'il y ait 2 avis envoyés avant la rencontre. C'est pour ça qu'on n'est pas certain de pouvoir rencontrer les délais pour le 12. Donc, on parle du 12 ou le 19 avril. C'est une firme comptable externe qui va être engagée pour le décompte des votes. Et il faut comprendre que ça prend un certain temps dans le but d'authentifier les votes et s'assurer que tout est en règle. Ensuite, il faut entamer des procédures avec ILS pour faire la fermeture finale du dossier. Il ne faut pas oublier que la majorité ou plusieurs personnes d'entre nous vont devoir même peut-être faire des changements sur nos shares, dépendant de ce qu'on apprend quand on va rencontrer les comptables.
Hi, I'm Michelle Miller, lot 394, and I did get my question answered about the timeline, but I just wanted some clarification. So my partner and I landed here because we were looking for a place to set up retirement. He's retired already, I'm not. So we wanted a place that would be affordable, where we could retire when we are on a fixed income, and that's why we landed here, and we love it. Now it looks like that may not continue to be the right fit for us anymore. So there was a question asked earlier about when you have the closing. Are you required to do a one-year lease, or are we able to just freely sell and move on?
You will be closing before you would sign the lease, so it's your choice. You would have a home to deal with.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
La question était par rapport à savoir si on a l'obligation de signer un bail. La réponse est que le closing, la fermeture de la vente va se faire avant, et par la suite, vous auriez l'opportunité de signer ou non le bail. Mais ça reste que vous êtes responsable d'une propriété, vous avez une propriété à vous occuper, à vendre ou à liquider suite à la vente de votre action.
For the last time, I'm going to try in English. You mind? You mind?
Let's do it.
Okay, I have nothing to ask, just to say thank you to you. Why? Because when I came a few minutes ago, okay, on the meeting, I didn't fix my choice, okay? But now, yes. How? By all you said, okay? That make me understood. I have to take a decision, not with my heart, but with my head, right? Plus the number, for sure, okay? And for that I say thank you.
He said it in English. Oh yeah, there's no French people. He's the last one here. Il reste des francophones? Alors, there's no French people left. Oh, il reste des francophones. Avez-vous compris ce qu'Étienne a dit? Oui. OK. Étienne, ce qu'il a fini par dire, c'est qu'il n'était pas décidé en arrivant dans le meeting de qu'est-ce qu'il devrait faire, mais suite aux réponses, aux questions-réponses qu'il a entendues, il a compris qu'il fallait prendre une décision avec sa tête et non avec son cœur.
Okay, Sue Kelsey, lot 798. If the sale goes through, you're saying maybe in April, I'm going to say half the park might be going north. How do we come back and close?
You don't have to, first of all, that would be the vote.
Right.
And then there's some things that have to be done in between. You do not have to physically be here to close. You can do all of this by certified mail. You know, people who are here can do it here, but we can do it all by mail, fax, all those things.
When do you actually have to sign the lease?
After September, depends on the closing.
So if the closing's in September and you pay us, do we sign the lease in October?
La question par rapport à quand est-ce qu'on pourrait voter puis comment on va procéder, la réponse c'est que tout peut être fait, soit par fax, soit par Internet, soit par procuration. Donc même les snowbirds qui doivent quitter, peu importe quand vous devez quitter, ça ne vous empêche pas de faire un closing. Et aussi on demande quand est-ce qu'on aurait à signer un bail, et la réponse c'est que le bail devrait être signé quelque temps en octobre si on termine la transaction en septembre. Also, I'm assuming that a lease can be signed even if we're far away. We can all be. La même chose au niveau du bail, on peut signer, on peut prendre des arrangements pour le bail, que ce soit par Internet, que ce soit par fax ou par d'autres moyens.
Just pull it down so I can hear it. Rhonda Lenato, 524. My question is, just suppose we're evicted. What happens to our home? Do we get a chance to sell it?
Want me to answer that one? It depends on the situation under which you are evicted. We have had some evictions where the court has determined that some of the lawsuits that the person has brought were frivolous, and the judge gave us their mobile.
Suppose like a felony, like you said.
In those kind of situations, depending on what happened, it's a judge decision. So if you're evicted for not paying your maintenance, that could be a lien against your home. I mean, it all depends on the situation, but yeah, it's still your property if you're evicted. We could probably put a lien on it, though.
So do we have time to sell it?
Are you planning on doing something that you're gonna get evicted? Okay. I think you should. I think you should, but, you know, I didn't think it would be real, would really happen.
It's really hard to, I mean, we'd have to know exactly what happened and what you got evicted for. There's so many variations of that, you know. But in most cases, you would retain the home and you could sell it, or the judge might say you have 30 days to move it out, or sell it to somebody. You know, there's so many, I don't know, but I mean, you look like a really good person. I don't think that's going to happen.
I hope not either. But the other thing you were saying now about the shares, and you could put it, if I had a son who owned, or a friend who owned a property in here, and they're going to be getting paid a share, could they put it in my name if they wanted to, like you just said a little while ago?
Sure.
I don't know why they would want to do that.
Yeah.
They're going to get your...
Right.
Yeah, they're gonna...
Well, I
mean, there could be tax reasons why you'd want to do that, but if somebody chooses to put the share in somebody else's name so that they get the check for the money, that's their choice.
Thank you.
Yeah, you want somebody, yeah, you'd have to trust them a lot.
Okay, thank you.
La première question, c'était si madame se faisait évincer pour une raison quelconque, qu'est-ce qui arrive à sa propriété? La réponse a plusieurs volets, donc on ne sait pas quel règlement qu'elle aurait enfreint, donc c'est difficile de donner une réponse à cette question-là. On n'est pas sûr si elle a l'intention d'enfreindre des règlements majeurs au moment où on se parle. L'autre question, c'est si on a une quote-part ou quelqu'un a une quote-part, est-ce qu'ils peuvent transférer cette quote-part-là à quelqu'un d'autre avant la vente? La réponse, c'est oui. Donc, on peut mettre la quote-part au nom de qui on veut, probablement pour des raisons fiscales, si ça peut nous avantager. On peut faire ces changements-là avant la transaction.
This is going to be the last question.
Good. It's sort of like a long question with a short answer. Let me get this straight. I lived here for 15 years and I've watched the park go downhill. And now you're telling me they're going to raise or like rents, whatever. And we're still not going to fix what needs to be fixed. We're still going to have lights out. We're still going to have problems with sewage. We're still going to have that. This if we don't sell. If we don't sell. I'm going to continue watching it go downhill with lights not being fixed and things like that, right? And I'm going to have my monthly thing charged raised up. But if you vote yes, they're going to give me $115,000, come in and fix up the park. I'm going to have plenty of money, and even if my taxes go up $50, that's $500 a year, $600 a year. You're giving me $115,000, right? And I can take $1,000 a year for 10 years. I'm still like not touching my money. I don't. Am I getting this right? Do I have this right?
I thought we were doing this.
Yeah, but she's asking if she understands. That was the question. Yes, that's what we said.
Okay, because I thought maybe I was missing something. I don't, you know. I'm looking for.
That is what we said.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to thank everyone for coming. We will be back here tomorrow at 10 o'clock if you want to come again. We have some people who love these sessions so much they come to them all. So, thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone.